In the news this week, Lingerie protest sparks ministerial response to horse racing abuse claims in WA. An exclusive update on the matter.
Also tonight, no more free royal show entry this year for children, as concession not extended. A Perth teenager charged with murder over a fatal knife attack in Midland. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loon and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. A controversial lingerie protest by former racing insider Emily Quatermain has sparked a formal response from the WA government over her claims of abuse in the industry. Several weeks ago, we first reported on Quatermain's demonstration outside Racing and Wagering WA. Now Minister Paul Papalia addressed her allegations. Paige Reid has the exclusive details.
A controversial protester has received a damning response from the WA Racing and Wagering Minister over concerns she had raised over the alleged abuse in the state industry. Former apprentice jockey, track rider, trainer and foreman Emily Quatermain had recently conducted a controversial protest outside of the Racing and Wagering WA office in Osborne Park, wearing only her undergarments. The protest was part of the activist's long-term project to investigate Rawa and what she alleges is systematic abuse and misconduct and corruption within the racing industry, particularly towards young women.
I think a lot of it comes down to there's a lot of people in this industry, not all, but there is a lot of people in this industry sitting in the top that run this industry that unfortunately may have an authority complex. I've found it very difficult to prosecute officials in this industry, and I think that they just think they are a law unto themselves and they can do as they please. I believe they prioritise the image of the industry above the integrity of the industry, and that is what has also been reported to me by previous racing and wagering officials of the industry.
Ms Quatermain recently received a response from Racing and Gaming Minister Paul Papalia regarding her concerns of the Rawa Act of 2003, where she raised concerns with the Police Minister Rhys Whitby in a letter. Minister Papalia said that Mr Rhys Whitby had asked for him to respond to her letter on his behalf. As Minister for Racing and Gaming, I assure you that the West Australian Government takes the racing industry integrity matters very seriously, he stated. He encouraged anyone who believes that corrupt conduct may have occurred to report their concerns to the Corruption and Crimes Commission. He also affirmed that Rawa is subject to the Corruption, Crime and Misconduct Act of 2003 and that the CCC can investigate them. Minister Papalia also told Ms Quatermain that if she wishes to make a report, she can do so by contacting the CCC. He also wrote that the activist may wish to seek legal advice on the options available to her and thanked her for bringing the matter to his attention. Paige Reid, WAMN News.
Perth families struggling with the cost of living may find it difficult to attend the Perth Royal Show this year, following confirmation that there will be no free tickets for children. Farmers and event stakeholders have expressed their disappointment that the program was not extended this year, prompting criticism from the opposition during budget estimates. Pastoralists and Graziers Association of WA President Tony Seabrook joined us earlier. Hi Tony, thanks for being here. Can you tell me how you feel as the representative of PGA WA after hearing there's no free tickets for kids in this year's Perth Royal Show?
Look, I'd say it's disappointing. Too many kids in the city today have no interface with anybody in the bush, and there's a real disconnect with the food you buy in the supermarket and where it actually comes from. The Royal Show is an opportunity to show city kids what farming is all about. It's probably the only contact that most of them will have in an entire a year. And it's an expensive family event. And I would imagine a lot of families won't go to the Royal Show on the back of the fact that it's just got that little bit more expensive than it was before. So it's disappointing. And it's a typical reaction from this particular government, which doesn't seem to want to acknowledge the role that the farming community play in feeding the people of West Australia. It's disappointing.
Do you think that this points to a lack of concern or investment in regional issues by the current government?
Oh, look, that stands out in absolutely spades. The billions and billions of dollars that this government is spending trying to secure their electoral fortunes in the metropolitan area I met with the Minister for Transport a little while ago, and I showed her a whole heap of photographs of the road that I use, the Great Southern Highway, on the way home. There's skid marks all over the thing, skid marks on the wrong side of double white lines, blind corners, speed limits. And I just said, for heaven's sake, if you've got all this money to spend around the city, how about a bit of it in the bush? Well, that fell on deaf ears. Unfortunately, this Labor government is so disconnected from rural people in regional Western Australia, but they don't need to be that well connected anyway, because the gerrymander they have guarantees them that they don't need to rely on the bush for support. And this little action with regard to the Royal Show, it's just another slapdown. At a time when live export got slapped down and a whole range of other issues around health and education, the bush is not feeling terribly enchanted with this Labor government.
What about those who are involved in the Rural Agricultural Society, as well as rural folks and city people? What would they like to see from authorities to show that they actually care?
This is interesting, because the obsession that government, state and federal, have with sport, for heaven's sake, the sport that's played at the stadium in Perth, that's not sport, that's entertainment. That's all it is. And when we bring football teams, rugby teams across from the eastern states, 2 teams to play in this stadium, hell, the only thing that's missing is the Lions and the Christians. Now, this is entertainment. And yet the government's got heaps and heaps of money to spend on entertainment because it's so-called big business. But the Royal Ag Society, they're a great little bunch of people, mostly giving up huge amounts of their time, just trying to maintain a profile of the industry that feeds everybody. And that profile needs to be promoted in the face of a city that cares less and less for where their food comes from. So I think it's disingenuous for the government to say it cares, because they've got money to burn when it comes to the sorts of things that big business and their electoral fortunes hang on. This is petty. This is something they could have done. And when I see the amount of money being thrown around the place and wasted in other areas, the firearms issue that we're confronted with right now, I believe that is $10 billion over budget and going to be a whole lot more by the time it's finished. It's an absolute mess. And here's a nice, simple little thing where they can say they'll subsidise kids up to a certain age to go to the Royal Show. It just beggars belief that they should be so short-sighted.
A new $27.5 million police station has officially opened in Forestfield, enhancing safety and police response across Perth's southeastern suburbs. Police Minister Reece Whitby and Police Commissioner Cole Blanche unveiled a state-of-the-art facility which replaces the previous station on the same site. The new station accommodates up to 100 police officers, nearly triple the previous capacity, and operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with public access from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays. The modern complex includes upgraded equipment, solar panels, EV charging stations, and water-wise landscaping. It serves 16 suburbs and is one of the 6 police stations in the Midland district, which covers 81 suburbs. The old station will be demolished to make way for secure parking. A second new station in Baldivis is set to open later this year.
An 18-year-old man has been charged with murder as investigations continue into the death of the 33-year-old man in Midland this week. The incident occurred shortly after 5 p.m. on Thursday, when police and ambulance officers were called to the intersection of the Great Eastern Highway and Margaret Street, where a man in his 30s was found with serious injuries. He later died in hospital, according to authorities. Homicide detectives have since charged the 18-year-old male suspect with murder. He appeared before the Perth Magistrates Court on Saturday, as investigations into the alleged murder continue. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers.
Home buyers will be given greater protection under proposed legislation that gives the Building Commissioner and Building Services Board expanded powers to investigate the financial status of registered builders. The laws would also allow the government to cancel builders' registration and impose conditions if necessary. The proposed changes were made public this week after 2 more building companies collapsed last month, sparking panic and anger among home buyers left in limbo with unfinished homes. The Housing Industry Association's WA Executive Director Michael McGowan said timely intervention would protect young home buyers from financial ruin and prevent new home projects from stalling for years.
the legislation and changes today that are being proposed help, I guess, provide some surety to young home buyers that if they engage with the builder and it doesn't go particularly well, that there's a pathway for them to have those challenges, I guess, interrupted at a point in time where they can still get their home completed in a reasonable time frame without it dragging over a period of years.
The Cook government will introduce new legislation in response to a High Court decision that limits abuse survivors' ability to sue institutions like the Catholic Church. The Bird v DP ruling, delivered in November 2024, found a Catholic diocese could not be held liable for abuse by a priest, as he was not legally an employee. The decision has drawn concern from survivor advocates who say it narrows access to justice. The WA Department of Justice has been asked to explore legal options to address the ruling's impact. Attorney General Dr Tony Booty acknowledged the courage of survivors who come forward and said the decision affects people across Australia. He plans to raise the issue at the upcoming Standing Council of Attorneys General to advocate for consistent national reform. The move builds on WA's 2017 reforms, which removed limitation periods for civil claims and enabled survivors to take legal action against institutions for historical abuse.
And now here's Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. I went to see my mum at her residential aged care today, and she was a little confused about just how long she's been living there for and what the plan is with regard to her future. Nothing too disorienting for her, but just needing a bit of reassurance. And that, combined with the fact that I myself was faced with a pretty good scam this week, made me wonder how vulnerable a lot of our elderly people are to the increased sophistication of particularly online but also telephone scams, and what we're going to do as a community to protect them as these things become more sophisticated, particularly with the use of AI to generate deep fake videos or audio which can mimic the voice of people who they know. So I think we all need to turn a little bit of attention to how our elderly relatives' affairs are being managed, who has control over their accounts and so on. Always a good idea to have those kind of things, such as enduring power of attorney and enduring guardianship, advanced care directives, and last will and testament, all of those things well sorted out while people still have the capacity to do so. And it's probably time for those of us who are of a generation that has some understanding of the internet, even though if it's reasonably basic, to just be warning our elderly that there is the possibility that there'll be some pretty convincing scams coming along, and that we need to have very tight control over particularly who can transfer money and so on their behalf. And it will also impact on medical care because there already is fraud around things like Medicare claims being made on behalf of other people and so on. So in the healthcare space as well, we need to be very careful about who we're sharing our data with, particularly when we're online, because the phishing kind of emails that are coming out now are getting more and more sophisticated, with them able to combine large amounts of stolen data in order to come up with fairly convincing emails that might seek to get further information out of you. So just a reminder that we always need to be wary when looking after our elderly, but at the moment it's a good time to be focusing on their security with all these scams around. Thanks for your time.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller, and that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. wamnews.com.au/news/extra, supporting independent local news, keeping democracy strong. From Melly Page, Peter and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next week.
Thanks for watching.